Yo, what up, Mace?
Yo, what's up, Adam? How's it going?
It's good, man.
Uh,
Um,
it's good to hear.
yeah, yeah, it's great to be back. We're on a good schedule now. We're kind of like ripping through these podcast episodes, which is good.
Mm.
Holding each other accountable. But before we get into our podcast, I want to kind of do our ad read. It's a little bit different than normal, but I
Yeah,
think I think it's time for our ad read because we didn't do it at the beginning. So, yeah, welcome back to the Assemblage Beverage Podcast. It's Mason and Adam here, and let us tell you about our sponsor.
the Assemblage Beverage Podcast, proudly sponsored by Insert Your Company Name Here. If you haven't heard about Insert Your Company Name Here, we're excited to tell you all about them.
You know, they've made our lives so much better since we have partnered together, and we hope that you all are able to check them out. Great company. Thanks to Insert Your Company Name Here for sponsoring our podcast. We love you all.
If you liked how that sounded, y'all, please reach out to us. Just messed it up. I'm sorry. It's so good. I love it. Insert your company name here. Come on, reach out to us here at Assemblage Beverage Podcast.
And now onto our podcast. Yeah, so our sponsorship expired. So we're looking for a new sponsor. So if anyone's interested in hooking us up with a sponsorship, we can definitely make a better ad read than that. We can kind of customize it for whatever your business is. But we're unsponsored now. We're free. We're free to do what we want.
Free agents.
Yeah, free agents. So be sure to check us out. But until then, until we find a sponsor, we're just gonna keep doing these fucking weird ass unsponsored ad reads just to keep us in practice. But yeah, until then, I guess we're on to episode 36, right, Mason?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, so episode 36 of the Assemblage Beverage Podcast, we are talking about the drinks that define assemblage. So we're basically going to cover, more in depth some of Mason's favorite cocktails, some of my favorite cocktails, and then one of our favorite cocktails that we enjoy drinking together. So Mason, you want to jump into kind of your favorites deep dive part of the podcast?
Yeah. All right. So first off, deep dive part of my podcast portion, Pommeau. You've heard about it before or on this podcast once, maybe twice now. It's a spirit coming from Normandy region of France. Specifically, this is the one I'm drinking here tonight. You can see it nice in the glass if you are watching the video. Beautiful. Real quick, Pommeau is a liqueur, an aperitif, and or digestive, either or kind of status, and or dessert kind of item. It is apple brandy mixed with apple juice to give you this. So Calvados is the main spirit made for apple brandy in the region of France and when it's mixed, it is created into a beautiful dessert-like style of a drink. First off, it was started in 1981, so pretty new style of spirit, which is really, really cool. And that's when it was first became legal in France. And then didn't receive its AOC nomination until 1986, which is really cool. So still very fresh, like 30, 40 years old only. So it's really kind of coming out of there. And it's from, I'm going to butcher this so bad. I'm sorry, y'all. Pays d'Agout, the cider root, which unites about 20 of the most renowned cideries or pommeau makers in Normandy, France, the region in which this is made. And it's all central around the town of Camber. Cambrian.
Yeah,
Butchering it
something like
hard.
that.
I'm very sorry, y'all. I'm not super French and fluent, and my tongue and mouth is super American when it kind of talks, and I'm very sorry about that. But I try, and that's what it's all about. But it's really cool. As you can see, it's a darker kind of looking spirit because you make apple cider, then distill it, and then after it's distilled, you get your Calvados, and then you mix that Calvados again with the fresh apple juice. It is amazing. It's super good. It's meant for, again, an aperitif before you have your meal, or a digestive after your meal, or can even be paired with desserts. So how is it made? It is made with a moutage method, so a slow fermentation style. Again, then distilled, of course, and then combined 1/3 Calvados, 2/3 fresh juice. So as you can tell, that leaves a lot of room for sweetness. And then it gives it somewhere between 15 and 18% alcohol on average. Of course, it can vary, but that is the goal, the standard in which they have to go for. How do you drink it? Well, you drink it chilled, normally in a tulip, sherry, or wine glass, as I'm drinking it in a wine glass tonight, just to kind of really enjoy it. And then the best pairings that go with it are creamy camembert, cheese, fresh oysters, hearty beef, and then, of course, any sort of apple dessert. As you can tell, it's such a wide variety and range in which you can kind of go with. It's pretty amazing. So first off, it is amazing because it's like the multi-use drink, I think, for anyone in any situation. And it's just absolutely stunning as long as you like apples. I don't know if you're a big apple fan, Adam, but like I'm in love with apple cider, things like that.
Yeah.
So when I found this spirit first, when at my fine dining restaurant Gramercy that I worked at, I was just blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I figure out this or know about this before then? Of course, I was also young and dumb, getting there. And so,
Yeah, and I've never had it before. So, and I know like you've talked about it on a couple podcasts, and like I really need to figure out where I can buy some and try it because like I love apple cider and like that part. So I will say I'm not a big cider drinker as far as like alcoholic cider goes. It's just not something I've ever really gotten into, but I do love like apple cider. Um, so like a non-alcoholic apple cider. So I think like I love Pomo because I love alcohol and I love apple cider. So it's kind of a good
best
mix
of
of the
both
two.
worlds.
So yeah, I definitely want to try it, and I think it'd be kind of it sounds like it'd be a good alternative to like a dessert wine too, like where you would maybe instead of drinking a port or a sauterne or something like that, you could kind of replace it with that.
Yeah,
It's kind of a mix between like a dessert wine and almost like a cocktail in a sense because it's not overly high in ABV, but it's got a lot of flavor and it's again maybe a little bit stronger than a glass of wine, but not as strong as a cocktail. So
totally.
definitely super interested in trying it someday.
I think the classification of it is considered like fortified wine style in
Yeah,
terms of like what it would be. I don't even think this bottle has it on it right now, but a few of the bottles I've had and interacted with said dessert wine on it,
yeah.
which was very interesting for it to be described that way. Because it
Well,
is, yeah, go ahead.
and with wine, I mean, wine is essentially just fermented fruit juice. It doesn't have to be grapes. It could be, I think of fucking Schitt's Creek. Have you ever seen Schitt's Creek?
No, I don't think I've
I think
had.
it's on Netflix, but it's a Canadian comedy like sitcom type of show, and they go to this fruit wine place in Canada, I guess is where they're at, and it's called like Herb Ingschlinger's fruit wine or something like that, and they have like blueberry wine and raspberry wine and banana wine and all these like weird ass things, and they're just like choking it down, and then they end up mixing them all together to like create their own Mary Todd of some sort. So like it doesn't have to be. We just think of wine here in the United States as like it's made out of grapes, but I mean, you could technically make it out of other fruit. Obviously, wine is known for being fermented grape juice for a reason because it's kind of the
Staple.
best. I mean, you don't find many like blueberry wines that are not like overly sweet because people don't make wine out of blueberries. They're also a lot smaller than grapes too, so you need a lot more to produce any volume. So
Yeah.
you can make it out of any fruit. It's just grapes are typically the fruit of choice.
Yeah. I wonder if there would be a way to like create a hybrid or of some sorts, because that's basically what you did with grapes. Is you created different styles and hybrids, and you perfected a beautiful stylistic that you really really loved. Like I wonder if like the Romans or the Spartans when they were creating wine, if it really was that good, or if it really was more sweet or anything like that.
Probably not. It's
I
probably
know,
straight
right?
dog shit.
Most of it, but maybe
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
Honestly, maybe
yeah.
like
Who
the
knows?
top tier. That's why some of the top tier places are the top tier places, But who knows?
Yeah, yeah, and
Anyways,
you could like create a different varietal of blueberries that are superior for making blueberry wine.
yeah. Think about it. Like you go off in
Maybe,
any tangent.
yeah, maybe we just found our $1 million idea. We're gonna be Assemblage Beverage Podcast, sponsored by
Blueberry
Assemblage
wine.
Blueberry Wine, now available nowhere because it's fucking
Uh,
disgusting. But
uh,
like who knows?
who
Maybe
knows?
that's a niche that we need to dive into and actually make like good fruit wine.
That could be fun. Uh,
Yeah,
who
or a
knows?
disaster, one of the
Or,
two.
if anybody's got a couple $1 million they want to invest in that, let
Yeah,
us know.
yeah, yeah. If anyone's got a blueberry patch in Michigan or Georgia or something that we could
Uh,
make blueberry wine, just let us know. But
uh,
you also need to be a master at like agriculture and be able to like clone and graft blueberry branch or blueberry bushes to make different blueberries
yeah, you'd have to go to
with
all
higher
different
acid,
parts of
less
the
sugar.
world and
Yeah,
grab
source
pieces and
blueberries.
vines and just
Yeah, yeah. Come back with a blueberry bush from you know France and stuff. God,
who
sounds like a
knows.
nightmare.
Uh,
Something to think about though.
yeah. All right. So, that is Pomo, though, on that side tangent. Pretty simplistic, uh, amazing. It is definitely one of my favorite spirits um, in itself, or liqueur in itself. Next, of course, all of y'all know my favorite drink, and that is the Boulevardier. Just simplistic, Campari, sweet vermouth, and bourbon. That is a third, a third, a third. That is the best way to make the drink. I know a lot of people try to do different variations, different styles, and of course they use different bourbons, different or rye bourbons or things like that to really kind of change up the flavor. And then, you different variations of Campari or Campari like liqueurs. And then, of course, all the different types of sweet vermouths that you can possibly get. There's so many.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as long as you're keeping that third, 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 you have that perfect Boulevardier. And I think, honestly, if you're switching out with any higher end product, better and better and better, you can almost do no wrong until you get to
Yeah.
the too good to mix products, of course. Anyways, the Boulevardier was invented in Paris in the early 20s by American journalist Erskine Guin. And we know this because it was first recorded in the 1927 Book of Barfly and Cocktails by Harry McClone. And hopefully I didn't butcher any of those names too bad, or Musellen. I definitely am not very good at some names, and that's an unfortunate part of myself. They just, again, my American jaw just like
Yeah.
vomits the random words that they should be really easily said, but, I just mess it up here and there, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Anyways,
And then we blame the other languages for being like too tricky.
Yeah,
That's such
exactly.
like I do that shit all the time, and I'm like, God damn it, I'm such a fucking shitty American. Because we're just like, well, if it were easier to say, like we would just say it, like so ignorant. But it's true, unfortunately.
Yeah. But anyways, it's just super, delicious style, and I think the best way to serve it is on a rock. I think the most classic way is up, but the best way to serve it personally is on a rock, and then of course with a twist, an orange twist.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I need to start trying to drink more Boulevardiers. I bought a bottle of bourbon a couple weeks ago, and I've like taken a little bit out of it, but I'm so used to drinking rum, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but it's I don't know, I have a hard time getting into bourbon.
Yeah.
It's just not something I drink a whole lot of, so
I
I'm
think
trying.
bourbon is a very required taste or acquired taste.
Yeah,
Something that you just like once you get over, I think the burn or that kind of hotness that you feel when you're drinking
spicy,
it. Spicy. Anyways, uh, whenever I think once you get over that and figure out how to like really enjoy it after that, I
yeah,
think bourbon really opens up into this really vast and open field of just like craziness because there are so many different variations and types and things like that, and changing just like any other kind of wine or spirit or drink of any kind, you change the percentage of grains just by 1%. You can
yeah,
alter the whole outcome crazily. Or
yeah.
changing one type of grain for another type of grain, just like that, and it's all over in a whole different type of spirit completely.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So kind of my favorites. I'm drinking one of my other favorites, but I'm not going to talk about it tonight because I kind of touched on it last podcast or 2 podcasts ago, or maybe 3 podcasts ago. I'm drinking Miller High Life tonight, but I'm not talking about that tonight. So I'm talking about the other champagne, not the champagne of beer, but actual champagne coming from Champagne, France. So champagne is essential. I mean, champagne is sparkling wine. A couple things that kind of make champagne so special is one, it has to be made, produced, aged, bottled, shipped out of Champagne, France. Everything has to happen there. There's that's one aspect of it, and the other aspect is the secondary fermentation happening in the bottle. So what that means is essentially it goes under a primary fermentation, which is essentially what creates most of the alcohol, which is the fermentation style that every wine goes through. So you're essentially converting um, the sugar in the grapes using yeast to create alcohol and heat. Um, Once that initial baseline is made, they essentially will put it into your standard champagne bottle, and then they'll add in sugar and more yeast. They'll put on like essentially like a beer cap, essentially like a crown cap, and then they'll let that yeast and sugar ferment to create a little bit more alcohol, maybe like a half or 1% more alcohol. But the main reason for that yeast and sugar is to create the bubbles of champagne. There's other ways of making sparkling wine, like you could put the wine into a tank and you can add just straight CO2, like you'd be making soda or beer or something like that. Or you could kind of do the same type of fermentation, aka adding yeast and sugar into a vat of wine and producing the carbonation that way. Um, but the thing that makes champagne so special and so exclusive and so um, expensive is the fact that you're, you know, doing individual science projects in every single bottle. So no bottle of champagne is the same as the next. I mean, they can be pretty damn close, but each bottle is undergoing its own science experiment, which makes it so special. Um, while it's such a special thing and it can be very expensive, I think that champagne for a long time and just even take champagne out of it, just sparkling wine in general. Like even when I was younger and all that, like I was always under the impression of like you only drink sparkling wine on New Year's and when you're celebrating like a new job or something special happened, right? Probably same for you, Mason.
Yeah, definitely. But no,
I hate that.
me too.
Like it drives me crazy. Like when I'll open a bottle of champagne, like, oh, what are we celebrating? Like there doesn't have to be anything to celebrate.
Celebrating the bottle.
Yeah, we're celebrating the bottle. Like maybe I had a bad day at work. Maybe I had a good day at work. Like it's just
A wine.
another beverage. And it doesn't have to be anything like a grower champagne or a Grand Cru champagne or, Dom Perignon or Cristal. Like it doesn't have to be a super high end bottle to be able to enjoy it. It could just be a simple bottle of Prosecco that costs you $15. I think that sparkling wine, it brightens your mood, even if you're not celebrating anything. Like hearing that cork or blasting it off and making a big noise, and then just like having those bubbles in your glass, like it instantly, like I know it puts a smile on my face, and I'm sure it does for a lot of people. So like, why wouldn't you do that more often? Yeah, exactly. Mason's smiling just thinking about it.
I know, right?
You have to hear the cork. He just had to think about a bottle of champagne opening, and his face fucking lit up like a kid on Christmas.
Gosh, and I love champagne. It's so good.
I know, I do too. So, it's really the perfect all around wine. It also pairs with so many things too. So if you're making kind of a multi-course dinner, and you've got a salad, and you've got a chicken, and you've got a starch and a vegetable, like champagne just pairs so well with like so many different things. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, like as far as making a wine pairing, you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm going to do a white wine with this course, and I'm going to do a red wine with this course. Like champagne kind of encompasses everything because it's such high acidity, the bubbles, it's very bright, refreshing, and fun. So, and even if it doesn't pair that well necessarily with the dish itself, like you're still drinking sparkling wine and champagne. Like
you still got that smile.
Yeah. And again, there's a lot of great bottles out there that don't have to break the bank. There's a lot of great champagne out there that's really expensive, and maybe those are your special occasion wines, but drink Prosecco. Like there's some really great Cava out there now that, is vintage Cava, and very, like Cava is made in the same style as champagne. It's just made in Spain, and they're a fraction of the cost. Like you can get a really high quality bottle of Cava for say $20-$25, and you're going to be drinking really high quality wine. So I think that's kind of, drink more sparkling wine. That's all I need to say.
Cheers to that. Drink
Cheers
more
sparkling wine. Yeah. As someone who's drinking beer tonight, drink more sparkling wine.
Yeah, I'm drinking Pomelo, so.
Yeah. Well, at least you're drinking what you're talking about. I'm like throwing a curveball to myself.
Hey, that's okay.
So my next beverage is going to be vintage rum. So vintage rum, essentially, rum in general is essentially, I'm fucking mixing myself up. Have 2 beers and I'm like already.
You're already getting a little.
I'm flustered. I'm rattled over here. So what is vintage rum? Vintage rum is essentially rum that comes from a specific harvest or a production year. So just like vintage wine or vintage champagne, the sugar cane is harvested from that specific year. How rum is made. So rum is basically a spirit that's made from sugarcane molasses or sugarcane juice that is fermented and distilled. So very similar to Pomo, but instead of fermenting and distilling apples, you're fermenting and distilling sugarcane juice. And then from there, you basically get a sugarcane distillate, and then you can basically put it in stainless steel for it to age, and that would be like a white rum or an unaged rum. Or you can put it in a different style of cask. So maybe you want to put it in a port cask or a bourbon cask or a wine cask or a Scotch cask. You can kind of, depending on the style of rum that you want to make, you can kind of put it in different barrels to change that finished flavor. I love I don't love bourbon, but I love bourbon barrel aged rum because it gives you kind of that same flavor profile with the smoky, a little bit of smokiness, a little bit of that like whiskey taste, but slightly just a little bit more sweetness, um, which is coming from that sugarcane juice. There's a lot of crappy rum out there where you look at like I'm not even gonna say brands because we're trying to get sponsored here. So, but there's a lot of really inexpensive rums out there that are sweeter and they're just not well made. They're made very cheaply. Uh, I love plantation rum. I think that it's pretty affordable, $50-$60 for a really great bottle of vintage rum. I've got a bottle of XO cask, and then I've got a 2008 from Panama. And it's really cool because a lot of them will do origin, so where that sugar cane is coming from.
Super cool.
Like, yeah. And it's, again, for a spirit of that quality, and you're only spending $50 or $60 a bottle, that's pretty inexpensive. Because, again, unlike a bottle of wine, a bottle of liquor can last you years. It doesn't go bad. And, you're not going to sit around and polish off a whole bottle of liquor, nor, if you're us. That's all I'll say about that. But drinking a whole bottle of wine with a friend is, maybe an easier task to achieve than a whole bottle of liquor. So, again, we're normal people. We're people who don't drink whole bottles of alcohol. I need to watch how I speak, but I'm
the beer's already hitting you.
Yeah, I'm rattled. It's sad. That's how I know I'm getting old. Like, and it's only hit me recently. Like, I could drink quite a bit before, and I'd be completely fine. And now I'm like 2 beers.
You're already feeling it.
3 glasses of wine. And I'm like, fuck, man.
And
I'm not drunk. I'm just like, I'm rattled. Like, I'm just like,
you're a
maybe
little
dumbfounded.
Like,
yeah, I'm like dumbfounded. Like, how could I already be feeling this way? It's bad.
It's not telling you. Use the joke.
Yeah, it's my body telling me to slow down. Maybe
it's your body saying, "I need a little water. It's time."
Yeah. Well, and this podcast will be released after our podcast with Line Cook Thoughts, so I can say it. But to touch on that podcast, like Ray, who's the host of Line Cook Thoughts, we were talking about beverage and stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, I maybe have 1 drink a week," and Mason and I were like,
"Damn, 1 drink a week.
What's that like?"
1 drink a night.
I couldn't tell you. Yeah, I couldn't. And not that like I might have 1 or 2 drinks a night. Like, nothing crazy, but like I enjoy a beverage at the end of the day after a long work day. Like, I like to enjoy a beer or a glass of wine or something.
You know what they say? A glass of wine preserves you for life.
Yeah, but I'm like, what do you? How? Why? But that's how you stay healthy and be a better person. You just don't drink, whatever. It's overrated.
Am I are you a bad person? I don't think so. I think we're great people.
No,
so I don't know. I think to each is their.
Yeah, exactly. So how to best serve vintage rum? I like drinking it neat, just in a glass. I also love just serving it over a big cube, or some small cubes if you don't have a big ice cube. I also kind of like to treat it like it's bourbon. So replacing it for the whiskey in an old fashioned, I think it could make a really cool Boulevardier riff with vintage rum instead of bourbon.
That sounds interesting. I'm down.
Never tried it, so it might be not good at all. But I think it could be kind of a cool riff on a Boulevardier. So those are kind of my 2 favorites. Mason, what's kind of our combined favorite? And I feel like it's only our combined favorite because we've had it together 1 time.
Yeah.
Even though we lived together for a long time, like, I don't know. I feel like we've kind of touched on this, and I feel like this is a good place to kind of push this drink into its prime time on the podcast.
So, as y'all know, the espresso martini. That is the
Yep.
next drink. That is our drink of choice together. You know, of course, there are so many different things that we could have chosen, but I think we both agreed upon the espresso martini being such a great cocktail that you could enjoy it whenever, however, wherever, and it just
Hmm.
being delicious.
Yeah.
Um, so, what makes a perfect espresso martini? Well, first off, that's up to every person.
Yeah.
Me, you, everyone else, y'all think something completely different. One of the things for me is honestly, it has to have a touch of sweetness. That's how a perfect espresso martini is made. And then
Hmm.
also, once it's well shaken, it has a beautiful crema from that espresso shot as well. Like I think those two qualities right there being super super important because to me, the best espresso martini tastes sweet and espresso-y. And I know that's kind of like lame to kind of say, but it should be like I'm sipping a perfectly pulled espresso shot out of a martini glass and getting a little tipsy with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, like, it's all about viscosity. Like, I want to have a creamy espresso martini. Like, I don't want to be drinking some watery ass espresso martini. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm drinking an actual martini.
Yeah,
Like, I want it to be, the right amount of vodka. I want it to have, obviously an intense coffee espresso flavor. And I want it to have like a cream component, whether it's heavy cream or I would rather use like a Bailey's or, Bamboo makes a rum cream, which would be nice in it. You could do uh, Kahlua, which has some viscosity to it. I know it's not really creamy, but it has a little bit of viscosity to it. So kind of having that viscosity and not like a watery espresso martini, which just sounds like
yeah,
gross. And to your point, like I want it to be slightly sweet, but not too sweet. I don't want it to be like I'm drinking like simple syrup.
right.
I want it to be sweet, but a little bit bitter, a little bit coffee. I just want it to be really balanced and not too like alcoholic. I don't really want to feel like I'm drinking like a martini, essentially. Like I don't want it to feel like I'm drinking like a gin or a vodka martini.
Yeah, it should be
So
a little bit more heartening and like either having it after dinner or as we were kind of discussing before, honestly, maybe even the brunch cocktail of choice.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
This might be the undiscovered fire shot to get you ready for the day. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Watch out, Bloody Mary. Watch out, mimosa.
You're getting topped.
Espresso martini is coming for you.
Oh no.
Dun dun
Ah!
dun.
All right. So,
So Mason, how did it start? How did the espresso martini come to life?
so how did it start? Well, Dick Bradsell was the bartender who is credited for creating the espresso martini. This was in the 1980s, and it was at the Soho Club. And it's simplistic with coffee liqueur, vodka, and am I missing something that he listed on those two things? No. Coffee, vodka, and coffee liqueur. Those are the three things that he added, that he created it with it. And then, as y'all may know, a traditional, exceptional, standard, whatever you want to call it, espresso martini is always topped with three beans. Well, why three espresso beans? Well, the reason is it's to represent health, wealth, and happiness. It's supposed to be like a good luck garnish for every time you create an espresso martini to really enjoy it and really send you out into that world, I guess.
Yeah, because it's nothing like adding an upper and a downer at the end of the night.
Or at the beginning of the day.
Yeah, at the beginning of the day. Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
that's electric though.
yeah,
It honestly might be the best breakfast brunch cocktail.
that's the next one I'm going to order next time I go to brunch.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't really ever go to brunch, but yeah, I
I don't
think that's
either.
got to be on
But
that's got to be your
vacation,
move.
vacation mode, espresso
Yeah.
martinis.
Or maybe on Saturday. Like this Saturday, just at home, make an espresso martini.
Yeah, if I was off.
Yeah.
On my day off.
Yeah, next week.
Next week. But why don't you top us off on some variation types of espresso martinis that somebody can or cannot order?
Yeah, so espresso martinis, like I've seen, and I know, like we both kind of said this at the same time yesterday. Like you brought it up, I was like, "Fuck, yeah, I've seen that so many times." So there's a viral like TikTok social media trend of an espresso martini where they shave Parmesan cheese on top of, which honestly sounds fucking amazing. Like,
Yeah.
love Parmesan cheese, love espresso martinis. Why not? You know, it's just like so decadent, so rich,
Salty
and it
sweet.
kind of cuts the sweetness of the espresso martini, and then it kind of cuts the saltiness of the cheese. Never tried it, but I think that might have to be like something that we do a video of.
Yeah.
I know we always say that we never fucking do these videos, but
we're getting there.
We're getting there. We're busy. We're walking here.
I'm walking here.
I'm walking here. I also had one. Liv and I were on vacation in Chicago back in January, and we went to this bar called After in Chicago, and it's basically Curtis Duffy, who is the executive chef of Ever. He opened a high-end cocktail bar called After, which is a really beautiful bar. And if you know the name but you don't know Ever, he used to be the chef of Grace in Chicago, which closed a couple of years ago, and he recently opened a new restaurant. So they have a 24 karat gold espresso martini, which was $28 or something like that. Like I had one because I'm like, we went there as a nightcap after some comedy shows and stuff. So I was like, I think that's going to be my nightcap is one, again, only one because it's $28. And also like I needed to go home and go to sleep. So,
you're pissing gold. So
it was good. Like it was a really good espresso martini. I think the gold, gold doesn't taste like anything. So
it was just for show.
And you really couldn't see it.
Because it's so dark.
Yeah, it was so dark. And then like an espresso martini is like brown. So it's like, you really can't see the gold, but whatever. I fell for it. I mean, whatever.
I'm sure it was pretty under the flat side.
Probably, yeah. We had already had some drinks, so I really wasn't taking photos of anything. I was just like there to drink the espresso martini. I think you could also do like a nice chocolate espresso martini, so kind of more of like a mocha.
Yeah.
I'm a big mocha guy. I either drink like black coffee or black, just normal espresso, or occasionally like my treat day is a mocha because I like that coffee aspect to it. So I think adding like a coffee liqueur, or not a coffee liqueur, a chocolate liqueur to an espresso martini could be really good. And then maybe just making a more boozy espresso martini. So skip the coffee, skip the espresso, and just do an espresso liqueur or a coffee liqueur, and then Bailey's or some sort of cream liqueur and vodka. And maybe if you got some time, infuse the vodka with coffee. So grind coffee and have it steep in vodka for a little bit, and then strain it off through like a coffee filter, so you don't get any chunks of coffee grounds in your espresso martini, because that would be disgusting.
Yeah.
But just having like a straight booze espresso martini could be the move.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a nighttime espresso martini, and then like the softer like espresso, heavy cream, and vodka could be more of a breakfast.
I agree with that. Martini. A little lighter style.
Yeah.
And then just thinking about it now that we've chatted a little bit about it, honestly, I feel like an espresso martini is just like coffee. Like in terms of like what variations you have, the like possibilities are endless. Just swap out one ingredient with another. Like I'm thinking in my head, my head's kind of firing off like lavender espresso martini or like orange cream espresso martini, all these fun different flavor profiles that I think are all very plausible and possible
Yeah.
that could rock anybody's world if you have a nice balance.
Yeah, you could add like some amaretto into it, or
Ooh,
you can
yeah.
kind of go like so many different routes. It could be a very versatile like style of cocktail.
Oh,
So
now I want one. Dang.
I know.
And I'm out of my Palmel, y'all.
No, I'm out of my beer. So, and I didn't bring water again.
I know. I do it every time.
Yeah.
All right. So, we're wrapping this up. Question of the day, y'all. What is your perfect espresso martini recipe? And put it below. We want to know your favorites, all the amazingness. What is it more balanced on that vodka side? If you're a kind of more boozy flavor, you want more of that espresso flavor, you let us know. Slap it, tap it, put it in there. Comment down below. You know it.
Mason's fucking fired up and ready to rock.
Yeah, I want to know your recipes. I want to make them for me, myself, and my wife, and her, herself, and them. Whatever, all the verbiage that you want to say, you want to rock it, roll it, and then when Adam and Olivia come over, we hang out and we make more of them, just like that.
Holy shit! God damn, that was way more energy than I was expecting. That question that's probably the most energetic question of the day that I've ever heard.
I was
kudos
ready.
To you, Mason.
Thank you.
Yeah,
peace out.
That was
Just kidding. We're not there yet. Almost.
Keep on blending. All right, see you guys. No.
Oh gosh,
we're ending on that straight electric energy, and we're done.
That espresso martini, fire.
Yeah. Well, before we go, I think it's only right to kind of give another huge shout out to our gracious sponsor. Insert your company name here. For sponsoring this episode of the Assemblage Beverage Podcast.
I'm Mason.
And I'm Adam.
And
make sure you keep on blending.
Woo, y'all.
Yeah. Ooh.
Anyway.
And make sure you smash that MFing subscribe button. Yeah, I better break your keyboard smashing that subscribe button.
Let's go! Come on. Share us with all your friends. You know it. Blast us out into that world. We're ready. We need them sponsors. We need your love. We want you all. Let's hear it!
Mason's
fired up.
Fuck. I feel like we're back in college, Mason.
Not yet. Soon enough.
That's what happens when you're in your mid to late 20s and you've had 2 glasses of Pomo and 2 beers. You just lose your shit.
You're ready to go.
Well, it'll be a couple weeks before we record again. I'm off for a work trip next week, so we're kind of stocking up on some episodes. So this will be out. I don't know. I'm fucking so confused about our podcast schedule right now, but we're getting back on track.
We're almost
There's
there.
There's going to be a podcast out the Sunday before this podcast released, and this podcast will be released next week. I don't fucking know. But we're back on track to hit our goal of how many? 26 podcasts
26.
this year, Mason? Yeah.
Now we just need 2 sponsors.
I'll take 1 sponsor.
I'm working for 2. Come on, y'all.
Sponsors, all right, yeah. We could have like a beginning sponsor and then like a midway through sponsor.
Or it could be at the end of the year.
Right.
Just need 2 for the year.
Yeah, let's take a quick break. Now onto our sponsor. All right, Mason.
All right, y'all.
Well, we appreciate you guys listening. We love you guys.
Peace.